On this week's KSP News Show, Squad reveal the remaining Iva'S for each of their command pods, and tech tree rebalancing is confirmed to be ongoing. All that and more on this week's KSP News Show with a cold.
Reporting live from the Kerbal Space Center, it's your host, Jinli Kerman.
Good morning, evening and afternoon, my fellow Kerbonauts. My name is Jinli Kerman. Welcome back to the KSP News Show. Once again, I do want to apologise for the lateness of this upload being on Monday rather than a Sunday like it usually is. Battlefield Hardline has been out over the weekend, and so I've been playing the hell out of that. And I live streamed yesterday in case you missed it. I think it's still on my Twitch as of uploading this, the highlights, but I'm not too sure. Also, I want to apologise for my voice and my general stuffiness. I do have one hell of a cold at the moment, and mixed with man flu and school today, it hasn't been the best ride. But anyway, we have some cool stories to tell you today, so let's get straight on with them. Yeah! So yes, let's get straight on with that first story for today, and it is about the new Iva'S that have recently been revealed. If you're not aware, in Kerbal Space Program, if you press the C key, you can go into a first-person perspective within the capsule itself, if there is a capsule that can contain crew members. Now, there are a variety of different parts, such as the lab, the Mark I inline cockpit, and various different crew cans that did not have an IVA view, so to speak, an inter-vehicular activities view. Well, Squad has fixed this with the release of 1.0, obviously with these IVA views. So we're going to take a look at them now. This isn't the full list of screenshots. I shall give everyone the IMGA link, which will be in the description down below if you want to check out the full library. But these are some of the highlights for you guys. So let's look at the first one here, which is of inside the lab. You can see here that there is space for two Kerbals and perhaps a third, due to there is the space either for a bench in between the two Kerbals. You can see that it's situated on 3 floors, which does mean that it's meant to be laid out, I don't know, sort of upright rather than on its side, which is kind of sucky for bases and stuff like that. But I think that it looks very cool. It's very intricate with all of its water pipes and oxygen and stuff like that. Loads of different compartments, and I think it looks just generally awesome with the ladder and everything. Really well textured. So let's move on to the next one here, which is of the Mark I inline cockpit. This is the cockpit that you can place stuff on both on the front and the back. You can see here it looks very much the same to the Mark I nose cockpit, except it's been added with a little glass screen at the top, which is almost like a hit indicator on a fighter plane, sort of a heads-up display type deal. I know that a lot of modders like this cockpit because it didn't have an IVA view and it offered a lot of potential, but I personally think that this is quite a nice cockpit. I think it offers a wider field of view when compared with the nose cockpit, which is its counterpart. However, I think it's more practical not only because it has a wider field of view, but also because you can mount stuff to the front and the back of it. So a really good cockpit here. The next one we're going to go to is the inside of the Mark II crew cabin. Now this is the one that you use with the original Space Plane Plus parts, you know, the sort of deal, the ones that are sort of shaped like an oval, and you unlock fairly early on in the tech tree. You can see here it's nice and simple, very utilitarian, just some nice boxes of supplies here, very small windows, 2 small hatches both on the roof and on the front and back here, and we have 4 little very simple chairs, which probably won't do much. Very utilitarian, but I think that's kind of the look they were going for here, and I think it's pretty cool. So moving on to the next one, we have yet another screenshot here. You can see it this time with Kerbals in. You can see just how cramped it actually is in there for those guys. They're going to be having a hard time on long voyages in that crew camp. So moving on now, we go to yet another screenshot of it. You can see once again from a different angle the limited space within here. So definitely going to want to have at least 2 of these if you are planning a long duration mission with the Mark II parts. Not that you would, obviously, because the Mark II parts are kind of sucky for that sort of thing. Moving on now, we come to the long awaited Mark III cockpit. Now, this is the cockpit that the squad added in 0.90, which is the equivalent of the space shuttle cockpit. And as you can see, it is very intricate with all of its different switches, screens, which are going to be amazing for a raster prop monitor, and various different windows. You can see that it seats 4 crew, and it has a rather intricate throttle connection in the center here. You can see from this angle that we have a detailed center console going down the middle between the 2 pilots. We have a complex dashboard, and then we have an extra separator with a radar altimeter on it between the 2 pilots and the 2 center windshields here. You can see the space center in the background here as well, and you can just get a sense of scale as towards the inside of the cockpit. And here we go and we see, moving on to the next one, we see its counterpart. We see the crew cabin for the Mark III parts. Now, this is the one that's designed to be a lot like an airliner, and I think that's very much reflected within the design here. You can see that there are a lot of Kerbals on board. There's intercom systems for you to press for the window and aisle so that Kerbal waitresses can come and serve the Kerbals for every need that they might possibly have. Mostly snacks, I'm guessing. You can see a little hatch there at the top, which you'll be able to climb out of, and I just think it looks generally awesome. Yet again, I think these IVAs in general are just really well rendered and just well done IVAs. What's the next step is the ability to get out of these seats and have a walk around. I know a lot of you in the last week's KSP News show were talking about this possibility being added, and I know it's on Squad's books, but I'm not quite sure if or when they will implement it, so don't hold me to that. But being able to explore these IVAs would definitely be an amazing step forward, and perhaps give them a bit more of a use. But let me know in the comments down below, guys, what do you think of these new IVAs? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm really interested. Personally, I think that they are absolutely amazing, but maybe you don't think so. Leave your comments in the comments box down below, and I shall reply to a lot of them because I usually read all the comments. So yeah, on to the next story for today. So yes, on to the next story for today, and as I pointed out in the intro, it is to do with the tech tree in career mode. In case you guys have not played career mode before, which I'm guessing you probably have if you're any sort of veteran Kerbanaut, basically this adds funds and stuff into the game, and you basically have to start your space program from scratch, and you have to build it up into a massive spacefaring empire, and it's all cool, but it takes forever, and it can be somewhat broken at times. However, Squad are revising this ready for 1.0. Harvester in his dev notes this week said, "On the subject of revising the tech tree's layout, we've done a fair amount of brain bashing here in vain to attempt to figure out what nodes should unlock which parts and when. However, this is highly dependent on what the contract system will ask of you, because this is changing in the update as well, and we simply can't tell what parts are going to be needed throughout the game's progression, not to mention now at least. So we've got an idea to make that task easier. Instead of arbitrarily deciding a new tech tree layout, we're going to do this in a much more scientific way. I've created a new version of the tech tree which features absolutely no dependencies between nodes. This means that all nodes are researchable from the start. Also, nodes have the exact same cost. This tech tree will include the QA builds during testing and will ask testers to note down the order in which they went and unlocking the nodes. From that data, we should be able to run some statistical analysis to help us determine which parts are needed first and how we should better organize the tech tree. This process can also be repeated multiple times to refine the tech tree layout more and more. We hope that at the very least this method will give us more accurate insights rather than just relaying anecdotal feedback." So basically what they're doing here is streamlining the tech tree so that they can make it a lot more linear in terms of progression, because at the moment you can either go down 2 paths with the career mode. You can either unlock loads of heavy rocketry straight away and be able to have a lot of Delta V in terms of thrust and launch vehicles by unlocking the skipper and mainsail engines, or you can go down the more scientific route which just gives you loads of science, and personally I think that that's a little bit overpowered by unlocking stuff like that straight away. And so by doing this, I think that they are balancing out the tech tree a lot easier, and making the game a lot more accessible and a lot more. It makes a lot more sense, I think. Yet again, though, I want to know your opinions in the comments down below. I want to know your opinion on the actual tech tree idea. Personally, I think that the idea that they have for QA, which is to make the nodes all the same cost, I think they're unlockable from the start. I think the unlockable from the start aspect of it, I think, is a good idea. However, I think the cost should be way higher for more advanced parts, and maybe cost a bit more science for the whole actual for the really advanced parts, maybe cost like a bit of reputation as well, or something like that. Just to vary it up a little bit, because if you want those really overpowered parts from the beginning, fine, go for it, but you're going to have to work your way up to buying that sort of stuff, and you'll have to do a lot of contracts beforehand, so it'll feel like you've earned them, so to speak. But like I say, I want to know in your comments down below, let me know what you think of this new tech tree, because I think it's a pretty good way of going over it. But that's going to pretty much round it off for this week's episode of KSP News, guys. Sorry if this actually goes out on the early hours of Tuesday morning. I really have not had the time today to actually make this thing. I've been making it in dribs and drabs while doing other things, and so I'm very sorry for that, and this being a very late upload. But yeah, guys, remember to like and subscribe for more. I'll be back next week, hopefully either on Sunday or Monday, I'm not quite sure, with more KSP news. Remember to like and subscribe for more, and as always, this is Jinly Kerman signing off. Stay classy.